Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. My name's Marissa and today I am doing the second part of my August wrap-up. So total for the month of August, I read 16 books, 9 physical books, 6 audiobooks, and 1 ebook. So I already went through, of course, the first half of my month, so this is just the second half of my month. So the first book that I ended up finishing was Reverie by Sala, and this book is a YA kind of fantasy novel-ish. It's about this boy who essentially figures out that he has these magical powers. He was in a car accident and he has no memories whatsoever, and all of a sudden he starts exhibiting these powers. Well, he figures out that he had this group of friends and they get involved in what is called a reverie. Basically, it's like a daydream for people and it becomes a reality. It's almost like a book that kind of plays itself out, and it sucks people in from the surrounding area and casts them in these roles, and these kids take it upon themselves to basically unravel these reveries that are happening. Now, let me tell you a couple things. The first thing that doesn't make sense is why. Why are these reveries happening? We never find out. Why do they need to unravel them? Because they're going to play themselves out eventually and the reverie is going to end. That was shown in this book. Why do these kids need to fix it? Because all they end up doing is screwing it up more. So that was never fixed. The character development in this is not good. Honestly, these characters were very bland throughout the whole thing, and I really didn't see any distinct voices between them. So overall, I think I would give this a pretty low rating just because I didn't really see the point of it. It was like a group of kids inserting themselves where they don't need to be, where they don't belong. I mean, the bad guy character was a drag queen, which was pretty cool in concept, I guess, but not really execution. You don't even really see the bad guy that much. It's never really very clear what the bad guy's intentions are. So yeah, overall, I just kind of thought this book was a flop. It was a book of the month pick, and yeah, I wasn't really too excited about it. So, So the next book that I ended up reading while listening to was A Ballad of Songbird and Snakes by Suzanne. I listened to that on audiobook. Really, realistically, the only reason I did, because I was not going to, is because it was free on my Hoopla app through my library. So I ended up listening to it and I thought it was pretty decent up until the end. I thought the ending was just not believable whatsoever. So for those of you guys that don't know, Ballad of Songbird and Snakes is a prequel to the Hunger Games novels. It is a backstory on President Snow, of course, and why he is the way he is, which I'm sorry, but that really doesn't explain why he is the way he is. Yeah. Again, I really enjoyed the story. I enjoyed the dynamic and the fact that he was kind of coming to sympathize with the Hunger Games contestants, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh yes, I'm just a mad, power-hungry villain for absolutely no reason whatsoever, and then it's over. I'm like, okay, well that was a lot of lead up for absolutely no resolution. So yeah, I don't regret reading it. I just don't think it was really worth it, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that one. The next book that I ended up reading was the Bane Chronicles, and this is by Cassandra, Clare, and of course a couple other authors, Sarah Reese Brennan and Maureen Johnson. And this is basically a collection of short stories in the Shadowhunters universe, all of course surrounding Magnus Bane. And Magnus has got to be my favorite character from the Shadowhunters universe, so I was really looking forward to reading this. I thought some of the short stories were really good. A lot of them, I think, really were just there to kind of show how Magnus was at key points in history. Yeah, I don't really think there was a point to it other than giving you just a little bit more short stories on him. It didn't really clarify anything for me, and it just kind of showed me more of who Magnus was. It didn't really give me any more insight into him. I mean, overall, I really appreciated the fact that I got to see more from him because I think he's absolutely hilarious. He's snarky and spunky and funny and romantic, and I love Magnus. So yeah, while I thought it was decent, I am glad that it was a cheap bargain book that I picked up and not something that I paid full price for. So the next book that I ended up picking up is an indie author, and this was a self-pub book that I picked up at one of my local bookstores. This is also a local author who is from mid-Michigan, so I thought that was really cool to be supporting local authors, and that is House of 13 by Andy Lockwood. So from what I remember, because this was a while ago that I read this, so from what I remember, this book is about this girl who basically comes back from the dead, and she is taken to this house where there are other girls that are just like her. And there is one girl who's kind of like the matron of the house, who was the original one who came back from the dead, who basically collects all these girls, and they are running this house museum kind of thing. And I thought this book had a really great premise and a promise, and I don't think it really fulfilled that, to be perfectly honest. The main character was supposed to be like, you know, the typical YA heroine, you know, the badass female, I go against everything, and she never questioned why her, how, what, when, where, nothing. It was just like she just kind of fell into the mundane day-to-day, you know, didn't struggle with family issues, didn't struggle with leaving her whole world behind, and just kind of acclimated. And then you know, this villain character doesn't come until 3/4 of the way through the book. I literally read through 3/4 of this before we got to any action. It was literally day-to-day mundane stuff that had nothing to do whatsoever with the last quarter of the book, with the premise of the book. It was just mundane day-to-day crap. There is a romance in here that came out of absolutely nowhere. There was no build up for that whatsoever. I think that with some more fleshing out and a lot of cutting, this book could actually be really good. And I think this book was published in 2013, 2015, and it's supposed to be the first in a series, and there's been no more books. So yeah, maybe that's why, because it didn't really fulfill on what it was supposed to do. So I guess the thing that ticked me off the most was that by the end of this book, you never really get a resolution to anything. You never get any whys. Why is this happening? How is this happening? So I was left pretty underwhelmed at this book. Though I did enjoy the characters, I think because you get so much of the day-to-day mundane stuff, you do get a good feeling for the characters. I just don't think they always acted true to their nature that the author was trying to portray them with. So yeah, interesting book, but didn't live up to it. So the next book that I read was, of course, out of this. Well, I didn't actually read it out of this. I ended up listening to it on audiobook, but it was the next in line for my Jane Austen reads, and that was Emma. And I thought Emma was interesting. She's definitely unique so far as the Jane Austen heroines go. She is a matchmaker essentially, and she tries to hook these people up with other people, and in this book this is the point in her life at which she gets her matchmaking wrong, and essentially the whole book is a lot of dialogue. Honestly, I don't remember a lot about it just because I thought Emma was kind of like a petulant little brat, and she was keeping people from doing the things that would make them happy because she thought she knew better. So she kind of annoyed me, and she was the I'll never get married, I don't want to get married, you know, I'm taking care of my father and I'm just happy matchmaking other people. So yeah, I think this is a lot of people's favorite Jane Austen novel because I guess there is a lot of action, if you can call it that, romantic action anyway, but I just didn't really vibe with the characters or the story at all. So then the next book that I ended up listening to on audiobook is Then She Was Gone, and this book is essentially surrounding this family who their daughter left to go to the library one day and then she never came home. So you're following this kind of like on two timelines. You're following this when the girl originally goes missing, and then you're following it years later when all the kids, the other kids that were in the house, are grown up and their parents are moving on. The dad is getting remarried to someone else, and the mom is just kind of like getting into this relationship with a new guy. And the new guy has a daughter that looks almost exactly like this woman's daughter did. And so she is trying to unravel this mystery of what happened to her daughter, why this girl looks like her daughter, and what exactly happened. So you're hearing this from a couple different points of view. You're hearing it from the mother's point of view, and you're hearing it, I won't tell you who because it's kind of a spoiler, you're hearing it from somebody else's point of view. I thought this was interesting. I didn't really I knew most of the twist and most of the secret that was revealed at the end, but I didn't guess how it was going to really piece together until we got to that point. Overall, I think it was a solid middle of the road book. I thought it was interesting. Would I read it again? Probably not. So the next book that I ended up listening to on audiobook is Lost Boy by Christina Henry. And this book is essentially a Peter Pan retelling, only from the point of view from Captain Hook. And now this is when Captain Hook was younger and came to the island. So in this story, Captain Hook, well, his name is Jamie, so I'll just start calling him Jamie. Anyway, so Jamie and Peter Pan are good friends, and they are essentially running the Lost Boys group on Neverland, and they are basically this hedonistic group of boys. They beat the shit out of each other, they fight the pirates, they fight these other creatures on the island, and sometimes they die. And you come to find out throughout even just the first 5 minutes of this audiobook that Peter Pan is kind of like a sadist. He likes watching the other boys fight. He likes watching them beat the crap out of each other, and he doesn't really care when they die. It's just something to amuse him. It's a game to him. The boys are just there for his entertainment, essentially, and he is overly obsessed with Jamie. So throughout this book, I thought it was really, really interesting because Jamie was very much the caretaker of all of the boys, trying to take care of them, make sure they don't get hurt, and trying to rein Peter Pan in. And it doesn't really work, of course. So I really like that this book flipped the expectations on its head because, as we know, Captain Hook is the villain and Peter Pan is the good guy. Well, this takes that and completely reverses it, and Peter Pan is the bad guy in this. And, you know, he does get his own little character arc, although it's not a very big one, and I don't think he changes a whole heck of a lot. But, you know, obviously Captain Hook or Jamie does. So this book was really, really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads. Absolutely would recommend to anybody. It is a very short book, but it is so jam-packed full of entertainment that I could not put it down. I listened to it almost constantly until it was over. So definitely a book worth your read. So the next 2 books and the final 2 books of my reading month in August were, of course, Courting Darkness and Igniting Darkness by Robin LaFevers, and these are set in that the same fictional world I read a couple, well, it's not a fictional world. These are set in the same time period as Mortal Heart. I can't remember the names of the other ones. Anyway, so these are set back in France and Brittany, and I can't even remember what the year is in there, but they're historical fantasy. And essentially there are these 9 gods that people in Brittany believe in, and they're actually real, and they give power to their descendants, only their female descendants, because those are the only ones they have. And so France is trying to take over Brittany and, you know, unite them all under the same crown, under the same god, everything. And these girls who are Death's daughters are trying to fight for their queen. So throughout this book, it is just a lot more war, a lot more political scheming. Essentially, these books are about 80% politics, 20% magic and intrigue. So these girls are daughters of death, of course, and they are naturally trained assassins. So that's how they solve problems, is they assassinate people. But they also do scheme politically as well. So it's not that they just go around killing people. I enjoyed them. I think I enjoyed the first series more than these, just because we were getting to know other characters a little bit better. In these, it was just kind of following the same storyline, following the same 2 girls, Sabella and Genevieve, and I don't know, I think I liked the first set of books better, just because I already kind of knew that everything was going to shake out the way that it did in these books. So yeah, anyway, those are all the books that I read in the month of August, and check back with me next month and see how I do on my reading challenge, because I have 9 books to get through, 9 physical books, and they're all thick. So hopefully I will see you guys in my next video. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching my video. I upload every Wednesday and Saturday, and I would really love it if you would like, comment, and subscribe my videos. Have a great day.